Pilots say what?
What do you mean? Why am I here?
Exactly. Pilots say what? Thank you for joining us on the 21st episode where we hear what pilots have to say. Today we do have a special guest, Captain Philip Stromer. I'm really excited to be talking to you today, but if this is your first time or you're joining again, my name is Zachary. I am typically the host here, and yeah, we'll let you kind of just get straight into it.
Okay.
Maybe tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a captain for American Airlines. I've been there for
Mhm.
23 years
Okay.
and coming up on retirement soon.
Yeah,
So I thought I'd
it's
come back
exciting.
and give my knowledge out to all those who are going to follow footsteps into the airline. So
Yeah, well, you've
yeah,
joined us
it's a
on a couple
pleasure.
of ZTA days, and
Yes, and they were
and
great.
yes, I feel like I enjoyed having you there just
Yeah,
from hearing you speak. We didn't really get to talk much, but
right.
now I'm glad that you are here joining us on the podcast. I feel like,
Yes. Well, thank you for inviting me.
yeah, did you know that you were actually our first airline pilot that we are
I
having
did not
this guest?
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that going to be reflected in the fee? I'm
It
just
might
kidding.
be. We can work that out with your agent. But so that's why I'm really excited to have you. We've had a lot of
Awesome. Thank
instructors
you.
and students, and I feel like everyone's probably pretty ready to hear a little bit more insight from someone who's living the dream.
Okay.
Let's start with this. How's your day going so far? I mean, what's your week looked like so far?
My week looks great. I just finished a 3-day trip yesterday, and it was sensational. Had a great crew.
Yeah,
Went to Western Florida. It was
yeah,
awesome. Took a walk on the beach
yeah.
at Eglin Air Force Base, and yeah, had great flight attendants, great first officer. Good trip.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna dive a lot into that here in a little bit because I want to know kind of what the day looks like sometimes when you're going out there. But before we do that, maybe I ask you a question or two about how long you've been flying with the airlines, and then maybe even where you started.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been with American for 23 years,
Mm-hmm.
and before that, I was with an airline based out of Las Vegas that went bankrupt after 9/11.
Okay.
So that took a while to find a job after that time,
Yeah.
but I was able to do that. And I came from a corporate background, flew
Mm-hmm.
corporate jets for many years, flew a lot of really fun, cool people and some not so fun.
Yeah.
But I did start out in general aviation and
Okay.
as a flight instructor
Yeah.
and started from the very bottom and worked my way up. So
That's
it
nice.
just takes a lot of determination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that'll be very relatable to. I mean, I've talked to a lot of instructors and students, and a lot of them didn't even know they've never even been in a plane before they come to the school.
Right.
Sometimes,
Yep.
yet they're going to enter the workforce the same
Right.
way.
Yep. Yep.
Did you do anything before being a pilot?
I was a civil engineer. I went to school for civil engineering and did that for about 3 years.
Oh, that's cool.
And started an engineering firm in the Bay Area, San
Hmm.
Francisco Bay Area. And after 4 or 5 years of that, I realized I do not want to do this
Yeah.
anymore. So I had started flying when I was 15 years old
Hmm.
in Northern California. I'm from Northern California.
Okay.
And I used to get up every morning at 4 in the morning and ride my bike down to the airport.
Yeah.
And I would go up with a flight instructor who had a contract with the state to read temperatures every 1,000 feet. So I
Yeah.
rode along with him and I started flying. When that summer ended, that stopped.
Oh,
So in
okay.
my brain, I had had access and exposure to aviation, but life went on, right? 15-year-old, high school, all that stuff. Then
Hmm.
I got into engineering. But it was always in the back of my mind that I just can't sit at a desk for the rest of my
And
life.
that's what I was wondering.
And
Yeah.
that's what happened. And that's when I started to really go after it. I
And
was late in life too. I was 24, 25 years old.
okay, and that's why I wanted to ask because that's
Right.
very relatable. I wonder, did in the back of your mind, like you said, there was always that voice that said, I don't really want to sit at the desk for the rest of my life. Was that from the beginning of you starting the job?
That was the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I always wanted to be an airline pilot.
Oh,
But
you
who
knew that.
who knew how to become an airline pilot? You had to be
Exactly.
military, right? Or really brainy or a rocket scientist. Nobody knows about the airline industry.
Exactly.
It's a
It's weird
secret.
how unattainable it seems and how
Right.
attainable it is, and like the
Exactly.
contrast between the truth is kind of crazy.
Right.
Still now, even I mean, you'd
Yes.
think that
That's
with
why I'm here.
yeah,
Right.
you'd think
Yeah.
that with social media and everything, everyone would know. It's like, well, that's just one of the common options. No, it still seems very not common knowledge that you can just become an airline pilot
Right.
if you'd like to. Of
Right.
course, it takes hard work.
It does.
Yeah. Did you go to a flight school, anything like
I didn't.
thrust or
It
anything
was a
like that?
local FBO in Novato, California.
Hmm.
Very small school.
Yeah.
And the students were, people who had money that wanted to learn how to fly, housewives and
Yeah.
older people, and
Yeah.
then but they had a whole program there.
Yeah.
So I got my instrument there, commercial, a CFI, and then they hired me.
Awesome.
Yeah, so they
Awesome.
liked me enough to hire me, and I instructed for about a year.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I wanted
Yeah,
to kind of hear about how you got into it and how it started and where
yeah,
your brain was because the majority of people I've talked to share that sentiment. So
right.
hopefully, when someone's
And it's
listening,
really important when you're a flight instructor to learn to network with people because
mm,
that flight instructor job is going to take you to another job. And
yeah,
you've got to be really personable and you've got to work with people. And that's what happened at that little airport. So those people that I taught started buying airplanes and then they wanted me to go fly with them to feel safer, right?
oh,
So
okay,
then that's how I got into a Bonanza and that's how I got into twin engine stuff.
uh-huh,
It was just from that flight instructor job.
yeah.
So that was the kindling. That was the beginning of it.
And they needed someone to sit in the
Right.
other seat, right?
Exactly.
And that's how it started.
Right.
That's really cool. Meeting people in the community,
Right.
talking to people. Does that play a large role in your job?
It does. It's
Mhm,
a quality and it's a skill,
mhm,
but you have to learn the skill how to be
mm,
outgoing. And some people aren't outgoing.
yeah,
I'm not always outgoing,
yeah.
but we're all in our little bubbles, especially with cell phones today and computers and all that stuff.
So
We
easy
just
to
want to
be.
get in there and put our blanket around ourselves and, look into a screen. But you have to attain that skill.
Yeah.
You have to be outgoing. You have to network.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask people how their day is. You have to smile,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes a smile, when you're smiling at somebody and they smile back, it makes their day, right?
It changed.
So
Well,
you
that's a type
have
of
to be that.
communication.
And then once you learn that skill, it
Mhm.
actually becomes a quality. And it's
Mm.
very important in this business.
I like the
You've
way
got
you
to
put
like
that.
people and you've got to be able to interact.
Yeah. I like the way you put that. That quality. It becomes a quality. The skill becomes a quality.
Yes, it does.
And a lot of people do have to learn how to interact. And even I've always been very social growing up,
I
and didn't
couldn't
have a whole
tell.
yeah. And so I've always kind of been that way. But in recent years, the older I get, the less natural it becomes. And
Yes,
I and
yes.
I, I've come across certain situations where I've actually had to maybe put a little more effort into the skill itself of being social and talking to people and remembering that smiling back at people makes a difference. Like you said, I've gotten so into my phone. Recently, I've started leaving my phone in my bag, and so that I don't actually just have it in my pocket.
Yes.
Yes, and so
Right.
that way I'm a little less inclined to
Right.
just do that all the
Yeah.
time. Anyways, when I see people, I'm trying to make sure I
Right.
make small talk
Yeah.
sometimes. It's
And
kind of fun.
and
Yeah.
we have so many when you're at an airline, you interact with so many people, gate agents,
Mhm.
passengers,
Mm.
fuelers, rampers, mechanics,
Mhm.
pilots, flight attendants,
Wow.
aircraft cleaners.
Wow.
Smile at them, right?
Well,
And ask them how their day is going. And
yeah.
and when an airline pilot does that and they're in a uniform and they recognize them and they the smile on their face is just fantastic. It's like, well,
Mm.
thank you for asking, Captain. It's really cool. So make everybody's day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the term, if you're blessed, be a blessing,
I
right?
like that.
Yeah.
That's good. I haven't
So,
heard that. Yeah.
yeah.
I want to move on to the question where it's like, what does it kind of look like to uh arrive at the airport and go on a trip? I mean, what does your typical day look like? I know it's usually a couple days in a row, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the drive to the airport, to the
Mhm.
employee parking lot, and
Mhm.
then the employee bus to
Mhm.
whatever terminal you're going to fly out of, A, B, C, or D.
Mhm.
And usually by the time you get to Terminal D, they've changed your gate. And now you have to go to Terminal A, right?
Like catching a flight.
Yeah. So we get there typically an hour before departure time, and we all hang out there at the gate. And the
Mhm.
gate agent is there, and we run our IDs, and they verify that we're who we say we are.
Mhm.
But you're getting to know everyone too, because you never fly with the same pilot.
Mm.
15,000 pilots, right? So
Yeah.
99% of the time, it's somebody I've never met and
Yeah.
flight attendants I've never seen.
Yeah.
So, hi, I'm Philip.
Oh,
Hi, I'm Sam. Hi, I'm Shirley, right?
I
So
didn't
you're
I didn't think about
introducing
that.
yourself right there. We don't
Yeah.
even know each other, and
Yeah.
and all the passengers are like, okay, well, there's the crew.
Yeah.
Well, the crew, they don't even know each other. But what's cool
That's
about the
cool.
airlines is that because we have procedures and standard operating procedures,
Mhm.
even though we don't know each other, and even though I've never flown with this person, it all comes together because we all do the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so it's just like a glove that fits every time.
Mhm.
So you get on the airplane and you start going through your flows. So in the airlines we have flows. We don't have
Okay.
checklists. We have checklists to make sure all the big stuff is done,
Yeah.
but the captain has theirs and the first officer has theirs. So I get in my seat and I would start here and I end in here. So I just go down the panel and then across here and there, checking this and that,
Mhm.
and then I end up over here.
Yeah.
Okay. And they do the same thing, but different.
For regarding
Right.
what they do.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we do the before start checklist, it's like 5 items. Bop, 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 done.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
So that's how checklists are done in the airlines. So
Mhm.
it's all flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get in there and we run through that, and And then, passengers board, I try to greet as many passengers as I can.
Uh-huh.
And flight attendants, hey, do you need a trash bag? Do you need water? Do you need, all the stuff we always want,
Exactly.
tissues, whatever. So things just kind of click along like that.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, the ramper downstairs,
Mhm.
who has the tug connected to the airplane, is on headsets. And they'll call flight deck to ground,
Yeah.
ground flight deck. Okay, hey, we're ready down here. All the hatches are closed. We've done our walk around. You guys good? Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Then the flight attendant comes up and says, we cleared to close,
Yeah.
right? And then they call for push. The first officer calls for a push.
Okay.
And then I talk to him, brakes release, cleared to push, and we push back, right?
I like that.
And it's
Yeah.
like that at every airport.
Okay.
It's the same thing all the time.
Even
right?
even with different crews, everyone knows that's the way it goes.
Just like clockwork. It's like a script.
It's funny because I didn't know that a large portion of being a pilot would look like not being around people you know. Like you said, from showing up to the airport and being on the bus
Mhm.
and talking to the rampers.
That's
and
why you have to learn
yeah.
how to interact with people.
That's
Our
yeah.
previous discussion. Right?
Exactly, and that's why I wanted
Right.
to kind of circle back just for a
Yeah,
second
yeah,
to
yeah.
it because I think that's really I wonder how many pilots realize that. That's what I'm wondering.
Pilots at this school?
Yes, pilots
None.
at the school, people in training, things
None.
like that.
Nobody knows that. That's one
Yeah.
of this secret squirrel stuff about the airlines we were talking about. People
Yes.
don't know these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have guessed that because that's your day-to-day life. People think about when you go day-to-day life as an accountant might look like, going to your cubicle and working and talking to your manager, right? As a barista, you have to talk to people every day.
Right.
As a pilot, I'm wondering what people assume your day-to-day would look like. Yeah, you're
Right.
flying a plane,
Right.
but you're
That's
talking
the easy part.
Yeah, that's the easy
It
part
is.
almost, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you have to kind of not only be good at it, but you kind of have to find solace and acceptance and knowing that that's what your day is going to look like. You kind of have to
Right.
find a way to enjoy that, or
You
else you're
do.
not going to enjoy your job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you can enjoy flying planes, but not enjoy being a pilot if you
That's
don't wrap your
exactly
head
right.
around it.
And that is the difference between happy pilots and sometimes not happy pilots.
Mm,
They love flying the plane. They
yeah,
can't wait to take off and land.
right.
But it's all that other stuff in there they don't like. But unfortunately, all that other stuff represents 80% of what you have to do every day.
Yeah,
So if you're not good at that, you're not going to dig the job.
yeah. It's more of an
Yeah.
attitude sort of
Yeah.
thing. Oh well. Anyways, I wanted
Yeah.
to circle
Yeah.
back to that because I did find that an interesting realization for myself. So y'all have done everything you need to do. You've gone through your flows. And is it time for takeoff? And
Yeah.
then
So during taxi, we have some more
Mhm.
flows we have to do.
Okay.
The first officer has flows they have to
Mhm.
do. And once that's done, then
Mhm.
I call for a before takeoff checklist. That has 6 items. Zip, 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 done. Right.
Yeah.
It's all rehearsed. You say it every day, 4 or 5 times a day. And
Yeah.
then, we go up to the runway, hold short, and follow the directions from the tower, and
Yeah.
they clear us for takeoff. And my flow going on to the runway is turn all the lights on and ding the fasten seatbelt sign twice. That
Yeah.
tells the flight attendants we're ready to go. We're
Yeah.
going to take off,
Okay.
and we take off. And now that's the easy part.
Yeah, and out of all of that, what's your favorite part so far?
Taxing, I
Yeah.
think, is fine because it can be tough as a captain to taxi. The captain always taxis.
Mm-hmm.
There's tillers on both sides, but the captain will taxi. And at airports that are unfamiliar to me or at night,
Mm-hmm.
I really need backup from the FO to make sure I'm turning on the right taxiway,
Okay.
right? Because we all mess up.
I mean, how do you navigate
So,
something brand new
so
like that?
that is actually more challenging
Mm-hmm.
than taking off in
Yeah.
the weather. That's easy,
Yeah.
right? I'm in my element then.
Right. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. And
Yeah.
do you still enjoy the takeoff? Is that not one of the
I
most?
do.
Yeah.
I do. I do, but it's kind of an underlying anxiety because it's like, okay, so are we going to lose an engine? There's V1, VR,
Still.
V2, right?
Mhm.
So if the engine fails before V1 speed, you have to abort.
Yeah.
Okay, there's enough runway left
Mm-hmm.
to stop.
Mhm.
After V1, you have to take it into the air, which is usually more safe.
Mhm.
But that's always running through my mind. Okay, we're coming up to that speed, okay, we're past that speed. If I lose the engine, okay, what am I going to do? So you get past that critical time,
Yes.
and once you're climbing, it's good, but that's kind of a critical time in flight.
Okay, that's what I was.
And it's kind of low grade anxiety.
I know what you mean. Like it's there, it's impending. It's like kind of like for me,
Absolutely.
even just I'm not very nervous about flying, but even me, it's always the landing, of course,
Yeah.
as a passenger.
Yeah.
It's like I trust that it's probably fine, but I do know that this is a critical point, right?
Right.
And I think about that sometimes. But it's because you're aware. To me, I'd almost be a little more concerned if you weren't. like that
Yeah.
in tune with what's
Yeah,
about to go on.
especially
Yeah.
slippery runways or runways with snow.
Mm.
And there's an action I have to take
Mm-hmm.
if the FO, if it's his leg or her leg,
Mm-hmm.
they're flying, right? But I have to take control of the airplane, and now I've got to stop this airplane on a slippery runway.
Yeah.
And it's night,
Yeah.
right? And it's plowed here, but it's not over there.
Yeah.
So it's just that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
once you're in the air, it's like,
yeah,
it's
I
easy.
totally get that. I think that's just a sign of somebody who still really cares about what they're doing
Yeah,
and isn't.
self-preservation too.
Yeah,
right?
well, exactly.
Are we going to make it safely? Passengers will say, and it's like, if I make it safely, you're going to make it
Because
safely.
you're on the same plane they are. You're not at any. They're not at any risk
yeah.
that you're not. So,
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you're in the plane. You're going through the flights. I mean, maybe we don't go through every detail, but and of course, there might be something you want to highlight. But what you're flying, you land, and you arrive in at your designation.
Yeah, let's say Dallas to Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so Chicago's always a mess.
Yeah.
It's crowded. It's big. There's all kinds of taxiways,
Yeah.
right? And the controllers are very angry. They're
Uh-huh.
always angry. You know,
That's funny.
it's like their inflection. When you hear them talk and their inflections in their voices and directions, you can just picture the face. They're just angry.
Yeah, they
right?
just sound
Because they're tired.
yeah,
and they're
I mean, you're talking to
understaffed.
someone all day.
And it's a really busy airport. When somebody doesn't repeat back the taxi instructions,
Mhm.
they get angry.
Yeah,
You know.
because they need confirmation that you heard it, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I've heard. Okay, just everybody stop. Okay.
Over the
Yeah.
controls.
United 12:15. Turn left on Lima Lima. Right on Papa. Left on Delta. And if they don't repeat it exactly back that way, they're like, okay. Then they.
That's insight. Is
Yeah.
there? Do you feel like
So
when you-
that's the hard part. So landing,
Yeah.
even in a snowstorm, okay, I know the airplane. I've been on the Airbus for 22 years,
Uh-huh.
right? Landing the airplane is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's the taxi to the gate at Chicago.
Exactly. And how does
Right.
someone get good at that over time? Is there something you-
Repetition,
Yeah.
cycles, reps.
Yeah.
Right.
When you first did it, was it difficult?
Yes.
I mean, more difficult. I mean,
Yes.
What do you help?
And so as a first officer,
Yeah.
you do all the radio work on the ground.
Oh, okay.
So a brand new first officer who's, let's say, is new to the airlines,
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of them come from the commuters and they go in and out of Chicago all the time.
Mhm.
But we have people that have corporate backgrounds,
Mhm.
right? And they're not used to going into Chicago
Yeah.
or JFK or
The big-
Miami.
exactly.
Miami's another mess,
Yep.
and so they have to do all the talking. I have to listen and write down the instructions
And do yeah.
right.
so-
And
so-
so by the time you get to the gate, you're exhausted. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, but now I have 2 more legs. Now I got to go to Miami, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing starts over again. And then after Miami, I'm going to go to JFK and overnight in JFK. And so by the time you get to the hotel, you're done.
Yeah, because I feel like like you're saying, navigating the taxiways, whether it's leaving or arriving.
Big deal.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you typically have 3 in one day?
Yes, 2
Yeah.
to 3, and then some days 4,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But that all depends on seniority.
Yeah.
So the more senior you are, the better trips you get.
Yeah.
You can get 1-leg days, right? You can get a turn, Dallas, Vegas, and back. You're done.
Yeah, that's nice.
Or you can bid 2-day trips when you're
Okay.
senior enough, or 3-day trips.
Mhm.
When you're not senior, they're 4-day trips, and there's a lot of legs. So
Yeah.
seniority is everything, and the students at this school need to realize that as soon as they get out of here, get some experience, get to the airline as quickly as you can to get that number, because by the time you're 40, you're going to want, or 50, you're going to want some good trips.
Yeah.
You don't want to do 4 legs a day,
Yeah.
right?
That sounds
And
rough.
people don't realize that either.
Yeah.
So,
That
seniority is everything.
Yeah, when we've heard that a couple times, and it sounds like now we have cadet program. We partner with a couple of the airlines. I don't know if I don't have all the details, but I do
Right.
know that you can get in, you can get a seniority number
Very
before
important.
you
That
even
is
go
so
through
cool.
an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I mean, it sounds like it can give you a real nice leg up when you just first
Huge.
enter.
See, they didn't
Yeah.
have that when I started.
Yeah,
So you're just on your own,
yeah.
right?
So get in
So-
on those cadet programs
Yeah,
that we have going
absolutely.
on, whatever school you're
Absolutely.
at. I think that there's ways to get into cadet
There
programs.
is.
You just start talking to airlines as early as possible, familiarize yourself. That's what it
Right.
sounds like.
It's exactly right.
So the first officers, maybe the brand new first officers, have to do a lot of this communicating. Now, I don't know how much the difference is from when you started to now, right? But I'm curious about if you can recognize any ways that someone could prepare or help themselves adapt to that difficulty when they first start.
I do.
Yeah.
ATC Live online.
Mhm.
You can listen to radio chatter.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
At whatever airport you want. You can tune in to Chicago approach, arrival, a ground tower.
Okay.
Listen to as much of that as you can. And so it just becomes second nature because it's all about expecting what you're going to hear,
Mm-hmm.
right? You always hear the same thing over and over and over again. So if you're expecting to get the kind of instructions you're going to get because you've listened to it so much,
Yep.
you're not so you're not so you know stirred up by the quickness and the tone, the
The
rhythm, because
right.
it's very fast.
Because when you said that a second ago, I wouldn't have been able to repeat that back. Like, not at all. And of course, I'm not a pilot, but I'm
Right,
saying, sure, if you're not used to it, you have to
right.
familiarize yourself.
Yeah, it's like a instrument clearance,
Mm.
right? They're all the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's in the same order. So these students on their doing their instrument right now,
Yeah.
they're getting used to, okay, when I get my instrument clearance, it's going to be cleared to
Okay.
the route, the altitude,
Mm-hmm.
right, the frequency,
So that part's
and
what's in
the
the same.
squawk, right.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so same thing with ATC.
Mm-hmm.
You're
So,
expecting to get a crossing altitude, and you know what to say. Yeah.
so across airports, it's the same. Those sorts of things are the same. The way that you have to communicate,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Now, what are the variables? I mean, is it the name of the taxiways and which runway you're on, that kind of thing?
Well, it's interesting you say that
Mm-hmm.
because everything should be the same way all the time, but there's tribal differences.
Naturally, okay.
Yeah. So in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
they call, D taxiway, Delta, Dixie.
Okay.
Okay. So every airport has its own little thing,
Mm-hmm.
like New Orleans.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. They're gonna
New
have to say
Orleans.
things different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Concord,
Yeah.
instead of Concord, Concord.
Yeah.
So there's the accents
I
too, which
can
are
I
kind of
can
cool.
hear that.
Mexico City, that's a mess.
Oh, really? Is it still? That's
You
so
got
funny.
everybody from all over the world flying into Mexico City.
Trying to
It's
understand what's
high,
going on.
8,000 feet,
Oh,
terrain at night, all these different dialects. You
yeah.
really have to be on your game
I
there.
still
So
haven't
I
flown to
bit away
Mexico
from
City. I
Mexico
want
City.
I want to go to Mexico City still, just one time at least.
A lot of
Uh,
history there.
yeah, there's a lot of history.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, okay. So, but listening to like you said, ATC Live, you can listen to radio
Yeah,
chatter,
that or buy a
familiarize
scanner.
yourself.
Buy a scanner.
Yeah.
I bought my son a scanner,
Okay.
and it's just on in the living room, and
Yeah.
it's scanning here, the Addison Tower.
You can do that. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, just listen to it.
Yeah.
And listen to Fort Worth Center. Listen how they talk to pilots and how pilots talk back. Really important.
I feel like that would just make a big difference. Personally, myself, when I started new jobs, the hardest part was just understanding the way that people need to be spoken to, or the way things are typically said to be
Right.
understood. Like, I understand that everything has its own dialect or lingo,
Right.
or things you need to understand. There's a word for it, jargon, something
Yeah.
like that.
Code.
Code, I
You
guess.
know.
But point is you want to be able to communicate the way people do in the industry.
Right.
And that's always
Yeah.
was the thing that made me the most nervous
Right.
when starting something. So I asked that for people like me.
Right. And I was nervous
Yeah.
when I did a couple of ZTAs because I'm from an airline background now. I
Mhm.
haven't been involved with general aviation in 25 years.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
Right.
like, can I still talk to this type
Yeah.
of aviation?
Yeah.
And coming from it, I can, but I understand what you're saying
Yeah, no.
completely. Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm still breaking down those like subgroups within the industry.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, and that's what I'm starting to learn after talking to people, and I find that very interesting. I do know that a lot of the students do like the idea of here. We've had maybe two different airline pilots actually speak at ZTA Day, and you're one of them.
Mhm.
So I see though that they really like the airline talk. They like the because a lot of them are planning on going to
Right.
airlines.
And
Obviously,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
What are some of the most rewarding things about your job is what I want to know. And that'll be like maybe one of two questions.
Yeah.
So,
I think getting people to their destination safely.
yeah.
No incidents, no violations,
Mhm.
no accidents, obviously.
Yeah.
But, people fly for a wide variety of reasons,
They do.
right? Graduations, birthday parties, somebody had a stroke, someone's in the hospital, funerals, weddings.
Mhm.
And it's so diverse, but to be able to get them to where they need to go and then greet them off the airplane, like,
Yeah.
and everyone's still really respectful and thankful. So I think, flying souls safely
Yes.
is really cool. But once in a while, like last year I was flying to Orlando from Phoenix,
Mhm.
and this family was on vacation, and they get off the airplane, and she hands me this beautiful drawing of an American airline plane. It's dark outside, the windows our windows are painted are color yellow.
Uh-huh.
And she said, thank you so much for flying us safely and staying up all night and getting us, it was just beautiful, like
Yeah.
drawing from this 9-year-old girl.
Oh,
And I
wow.
actually framed it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's those kind of things that were rewarding.
For you to say that you enjoy the fact that you got someone to their destination safely for whatever reason they're flying.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of the being in tune, keeping your head up and talking to people kind of energy.
Yeah.
Um,
And giving
yeah.
back to society,
Mm.
right? So the job I love, I'm actually providing a service.
Yes, that's
I'm
what
getting
I
you
would.
there safely.
Yeah, you're making an impact.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of cool because sometimes you can work at a job and be like, yeah, I'm helping this company
Right.
perform their function, sure, but I'm just like,
But
it's easy to feel like a
I'm,
cog in the
I'm
machine.
affecting no change.
Yeah, I don't feel impactful, it doesn't seem like that's not something you're gonna really feel like
Right.
in your role. Okay, well, you already answered the second question. I mean, but I'm curious, what's one of the most memorable flights or flight experiences you've had?
Well, before I got on, after 9/11, I flew a BBJ, which is a business version of a 737 for a company out of Van Nuys.
Mhm.
So Ben Affleck had just finished filming Pearl Harbor.
Oh, wow.
So I was flying him and some other people.
Uh-huh.
And so he actually came up into the flight deck
Yeah.
over the Atlantic. We're taking them to Paris
Mm.
and had a really cool discussion about, what he went through to make that movie. And he
Mhm.
actually knew a lot about airspeed and stalls and this and that. But
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, I'm talking to this guy. Like,
It's Ben Affleck.
it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. But in my corporate days, I got to fly a lot of really cool people.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
and
very special.
the change from corporate to the airlines.
Big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
Big cultural difference.
Was there something that really pushed you to do that?
Well, I always wanted to be an airline pilot.
Oh,
like
you said
I
you always
in the
wanted to
beginning.
be. Yeah.
I always pictured that because
Yeah.
in my mind, when I was young, we'd go to the airport and just watch the airline pilots and cruise.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
So my dad was in World War II. He flew the Hump C-47s over the Himalayas. So
Mhm.
aviation was always in my life. But to see those airline pilots and flight attendants with their roller bags, they didn't
Yeah.
have roller bags back then.
Yeah.
We were actually allowed at the airport. We could get through security. You didn't have to fly.
Yeah.
So we I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
That was the image in my mind.
So you just wanted to go ahead and at least check that box and
I
do it,
wanted
and
to
here
do
you
it.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here
that's
I
really
am.
cool. Okay, and then we have a lot of our students watch the podcast or listen to the podcast,
Yeah.
whatever platform
Yeah.
they're using. But we have people from all over the country. I mean, we look at the map all the time,
Yeah.
and we have a little red dot that pops up in overseas
cool.
and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
a lot of people are in training or maybe
Mhm.
just fellow pilots. I'm curious about for the people who are new, maybe there's some insights you can give or tips and advice. And I do have some questions here that maybe would help you do that.
Okay.
What qualities or skills do you think are essential for success in this field? Well, you kind of answered that.
Right. Well, I think one that I left out is organization.
Mhm.
Skill is you have to learn to be organized, and
Mhm.
that's a skill, which becomes a quality.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
how your day starts, and we already talked about this,
Yeah.
is everything. But your day can't start right unless you are put together in life.
Mm.
Everything has a place to go.
Mhm.
That includes personal life and all of that.
Yeah.
So try to live a really well organized life with your relationships,
Yeah.
with your house, with
Yeah.
your car,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Try to keep it together. That's very important.
Yeah.
And I think being responsible, what does responsible mean? Well,
Yeah.
responsible means that I need to wake up and want to interact with people.
Yeah.
I want to do a good job for my company and I want to fly safely, right?
Mhm.
That's being responsible.
Yeah.
And I think learning situational awareness is really, really important.
And
You
what is
need
like an example?
you
of
need
that?
to know what's going on, what could present a problem to me right now.
Right.
If you don't know what's going sideways until it's sideways, it's too late. You need to have your radar going
Mhm.
right all the time. And I think division of attention skills are really important. Be able to do 2 or 3 things at the same time,
Mm.
but prioritize which needs to be done now.
Right.
Because there's a lot of that in aviation, and the students are learning that now.
Yeah.
Right? The instrument pilots are learning that now. Do a little of this first, and then do this, and don't try to do all of this at once.
I compartmentalize.
Do this,
a little bit.
look, do it again, look. Right?
Oh, wow,
It's
okay.
learning that skill.
Mhm. Another one we had that I might have sent you was what do you do to stay current with the latest technologies and regulations in aviation?
Okay, this is easy for an airline pilot
Mhm.
because all the regulations that are changed are are sent to the company.
Mhm.
So then American Airline pipelines it out to all of us
Okay.
through our various apps. And we're like so apped out at this airline. We
Yeah.
have so many apps for everything. But they feed that information to us. So
Mhm.
I don't really have to keep up on regulation anymore.
Mhm.
Right? My
Yeah.
company will tell me.
Yeah. Anything that's relevant to you.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, I appreciate you for giving us the insight.
You bet. My
I mean,
pleasure.
we've talked about all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to have you back at some point. I think I
Okay.
have even more ideas on what to talk about at this point.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I can blossom out from there.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
to kind of add on a little
Yeah.
bit, and then now that we have a little repertoire, that we would be able to figure out more places to go with
Yeah.
it.
And I'll start thinking
Yeah.
when I'm doing my trips, what might be really interesting that people may want to know.
Yeah, and we can
know.
even talk about some of that stuff ahead of time. So,
Yeah.
but I do appreciate you for joining us. I hope that anyone who's still listening or watching enjoyed this. If you are still listening, I'm sure you did. And then on that note, if you have any questions for us, leave it in the comments. Like, subscribe. If you have any questions for Thrustflight, of course, go to thrustflight.com. We have all the information you need. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week on the next episode of Pilots Say What. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.